Hello guys, happy Monday. This is a bit of a strange video today, but I'm in the headspace at the moment where I feel like I can do it and where I feel like I can talk about it, because I'm in waves of emotions at the moment, and sometimes I'm struggling to think clearly and then other times I'm okay. And yeah, so here we go. I'm doing this because basically I'm wondering if there's anyone in the same situation as me. I mean, I know there is, and I'll come to that in the video in a bit. But there might be somebody that follows me on here that can maybe relate to some level. So if it does relate to you, then obviously please reach out after you've watched this video. But basically, to cut the long story short, I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible because I can ramble for quite some time, as you guys know. Back in 2019, I decided to send off my DNA sample to Ancestry because I was interested as to how I was made up, as in English, Irish, Scottish, whatever it may be. I'd seen a programme on telly where Ant and Dec had done this programme, and basically it turned out that generations and generations and generations ago, they end up being related somehow. And I watched it and I thought, I'm going to do that because I don't have a proper relationship with my parents, so it's really hard for me to reach out and go, do you know about our family history? Do you know how we're made up? So anyway, so 2019, I sent off my DNA sample and I got some basic results back, which basically said that I had a certain percentage of English in me, certain percentage of Welsh in me, and Irish, etc., etc. And there was loads more behind my DNA, which I found really fascinating. But obviously, as the years have gone on, things have got better and things are more improved. So as the years have gone on, my DNA sample has changed and it's a little bit more, it's more specific as to what it relates to. So what was really interesting is that I found out that I was 30% Welsh. So I am more Welsh than English. I'm 2% English and 30% Welsh. And all the other percentage is made up of different countries across the world. That was really interesting. And then I started getting hits. People started to get linked to my DNA. So like cousin, first cousin, except there's so many. And I thought, whoa, that's weird. So anyway, a couple of people had hits with me where I think initially it came up as cousins. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Didn't really do much about it at the time, you know, because this is going back a few years ago now. And then a little while ago, I had another hit where this guy had popped up as either my half brother or like an uncle of some sort. And I thought, and he's got a Spanish name. I thought, that's interesting. So I'd had conversations with the other two that had been matched to me as cousins. And basically, to cut the long story short, I'm trying to keep it short. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. They reached out and told me that they were donor babies and that they didn't know who their dad was. Now, at that time, I was dealing with quite a lot of other stuff in my life. So I didn't really think much of it. Obviously, I replied to these people, told them what I knew. And then a little while ago, I had another hit where this guy, like I say, the DNA had improved somewhat and he was being matched to me as a half brother. So as far as I'm aware, there was me and my sister, my mum and dad, and I know that my dad had kids from a previous relationship before he met my mum. That's about it. So I messaged this guy and I asked a few questions. And anyway, he came back to me recently because he hadn't seen the message and he was like, right. So basically you've got these three people, not me, these three people that had confirmed to me that they were donor babies. So like I said, these two other people had initially been matched to me as cousin or aunt, but it has now been updated to half sister. So I've got two half sisters and a half brother. So I'm like, this is interesting. So I had a conversation with this guy who was supposedly my half-brother, who had said that, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm not going to give names or anything like that. But basically, yeah, he found out in his later life that his dad was not his dad. And the same thing happened to the other two people as well. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, that means that my dad was a donor dad at some point. Because what's even weirder is that all four of us our birthdays are in 1985. And then there's one of them whose birthday is 3 days before mine. So she was she was born 3 days before I was. And then the other two were later on in the year, so all 1985. So basically, I had to... So all week... So like for the last few days, I'm like, so my dad was a donor dad, which I couldn't get my head around. I didn't know that he had done that. So after like 15 years of no contact, I had to reach out to my dad and ask him if I could ask him some questions, which he was quite open to, and he was very honest. We had a conversation on the phone, and he told me... So he obviously learnt this the same time that I did. He did not know this for sure, obviously, at the time. But basically, when my parents were trying to conceive me, there was stuff going on. And that basically they had gone to a donor place. So my dad obviously said that it seems that I am not his biological daughter, and that I was conceived through the sperm donor that they had gone to, not in 1984, because obviously I was born at the start of 1985. He didn't realise that I was not biologically his, because basically they'd gone to the sperm donor place, still trying to conceive naturally. She fell pregnant, and then they just assumed that I was his, which I am not. So it now seems that my whole childhood has been an absolute lie, and that my dad is not my dad, and I don't know if I will ever find out biologically who my dad is. But it seems like me and these three people on Ancestry all have the same sperm donor dad. I really don't know at this moment in time how I'm able to get through this video without crying. I was crying yesterday. I was crying at the gym this morning. At this point, I literally feel like, what more can possibly be thrown my way? It is nearly a year to the day that I got diagnosed with ADHD, and it took me months to process that. And at times, there's still times where I'm in disbelief. And now I have to get my head around the fact that my dad is not my dad, and it was through a sperm donor. I've obviously let no close family. So my dad, the guy that I thought was my dad, obviously knows the situation now. I've obviously told my sister, who I was brought up with, that, and again, we haven't spoken in a few years, but I felt like it was the right thing to do to let her know. So we are not full siblings, we are actually half sisters, because obviously we've got different dads. So it seems that my dad is through a sperm donor, and my sister that I was brought up with, her dad is the guy that I thought was my dad. And then I've got these three other people that I'm now in contact with, who are also my half siblings. Now, my question is how many more of us are there that have got this same sperm donor dad? And yeah, now the chances are is that I'm going to meet these other three, because I know that they have already met up and they've built a relationship because they had that in common. And now I have obviously got exactly the same story. I've got this other guy on my birth certificate that's not my dad, and I've come from a sperm donor. So yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to process this. I need a bit of time, but I really, like I said, I really wanted to sit down when my mind was in a slightly better headspace at this moment in time and talk about it. But yeah, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the reason I found out is because I've sent my DNA off and been matched to 3 people on Ancestry. If I hadn't have done that, I never would have known the truth, because my dad obviously thought that I was probably his, and I don't think I ever would have had a conversation with my mum who would have told me that. And like I said, me and my mum haven't spoken in well over 10 years. And I don't think she ever would have turned around and said that to me, because why would she? So now obviously I've got questions about where I've come from. What is my biological dad about? Like, what's his background? Is he still alive? Has he passed away? And to be honest with you, like I said, I don't think I will ever know the answer to any of it, and I don't know if I need to know any of it, because obviously the whole point of doing sperm donation is that it's anonymous, right? So he doesn't probably want to be found. He probably doesn't want to know about any kids that he's potentially helped create. But when my head is in a better headspace, I'm gonna reach out to the other 3 half siblings again. Maybe try and build some sort of relationship there. Potentially meet up with them myself, because I haven't met them. I've seen what they look like, and there's a big resemblance there between the 4 of us. But yeah, it's just absolutely overwhelming. So my head is scrambled. Like I said, obviously I've let the people know that I need to let know. I've let my clients know, because obviously my face cannot hide how I feel, unfortunately. I've got one of them faces that if I'm sad, you can see it. If I'm happy, you can see it. If I'm moody, you can see it. So I didn't want my clients coming back to PT this week after my week off and obviously kind of looking at me thinking, what's going on? So I thought it was really right to be transparent with them and let them know. And they've been amazing, to be honest with you. And they made me cry, because they were messaging me words of support. And honestly, it was just so lovely to see. But that's not why I did that. Like I said to them, I didn't do it for sympathy, and I didn't do it for that. I literally did it to be transparent as their coach, to be like, right, I'm going through a tough time mentally at the minute. And I'm still going to be on my A game. Don't get me wrong when it comes to PT, but I might just not look okay, because there's stuff in here that I need to process. So I've got the whole ADHD thing, which I'm still trying to get my head around. As you guys know, I've been in a process over the last couple of months of being on HRT. My body is still massively adjusting to that. And now obviously I found out that my biological father is through a sperm donor. There's no way that it's a mistake, because there's too much other stuff happened for it to be a mistake. This is what it is. So yeah, so I'm going to leave that video there. Like I said, this isn't me putting this out there to get sympathy and all this and that. It's literally to put it out there just in case there's somebody out there who is in a similar situation to me. And just know that you're not alone. And I know that over time I will be okay, but right now I know I'm not. I feel quite nervous. I feel quite jittery. I feel like my anxiety's built up quite a lot. It does not help that I'm on the first day of my monthly. Very hormonal, very emotional. It's all very bad timing. But what really sucks at times is that something really, really positive will happen in my life. Like, I had that article in the magazine the other week, and last week we booked a holiday to Disney. Literally last minute, and we're going to go in October. Bang, the next day I find this out. I just don't understand why I'm not allowed that time to be happy for a certain amount of time, and then have this news on me, so that now I feel like the good stuff, I can't focus on that anymore, because I'm focusing so hard on this. Oh, it's just unreal. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I really don't know what else to say. But yeah, if you got to the end, I appreciate it. And if anyone's got any questions, fire them over.